Something big is happening in Canada. Something that was never meant to reach the public eye. For months, a series of secret discussions, confidential reports, and leaked documents have started to surface, revealing a list of billion-dollar projects that could completely reshape the country's future. From energy to infrastructure, from the Arctic to the Pacific coast, this is not just another government plan. This is the beginning of a new national transformation. But behind these ambitious projects lies a deeper story. A story of power, politics, and purpose. And a question that could define the next decade. Who is really shaping Canada's future? Officials are calling them nation-building projects, but insiders say that what's being planned is far beyond anything Canada has attempted in years. The leaked files hint at mega initiatives worth billions of dollars, new mining expansions, advanced LNG terminals, northern hydro projects, and massive transportation links designed to connect Canada's most remote regions to global markets. The vision sounds bold, inspiring even. But the secrecy surrounding it raises one question: why now? And why is the government moving so quietly? Analysts believe the answer lies in timing. Canada is entering a period of intense global competition, a world where natural resources are power, and economic control means political independence. The United States is changing its trade strategy. Europe is scrambling for energy security. China is chasing Arctic access. And in the middle of this global storm, Canada is sitting on the kind of resources the world desperately needs. According to insiders close to Ottawa, the leaked projects are part of a massive new blueprint, a plan to secure Canada's position before the next wave of global economic shifts hits. And while officials have refused to comment publicly, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Billions are being mobilized. Contracts are being prepared. And construction is quietly being planned in regions that have seen little investment for decades. Among these projects are names that keep reappearing. A major LNG development on the West Coast designed to rival American exports. A massive mining corridor in northern Ontario tied to electric vehicle production. A new hydro expansion near Iqaluit, meant to power Canada's Arctic for generations. And deep-water ports quietly being considered for northern trade routes, routes that could open direct access to Europe and Asia as global warming shifts the Arctic's geography. It sounds like a dream for Canada's economy, jobs, growth, energy independence. But it also sounds too perfect to be coincidence. Because these projects, leaked one by one, line up perfectly with a vision that a certain Canadian leader has been quietly advocating for years. That leader is Mark Carney. For years, Carney has warned that Canada risks falling behind if it doesn't act boldly, if it doesn't invest in its future while the rest of the world scrambles for control. He's spoken repeatedly about turning Canada's resource wealth into long-term national strength, and now, these projects seem to echo that exact message. Carney believes Canada's next chapter depends on courage, the courage to think big, to invest in itself, and to take the lead in areas where the world least expects it. And while he has never confirmed direct involvement in these leaked plans, his economic philosophy is written all over them. If these leaks are accurate, Canada is preparing to launch a wave of development unlike anything in modern history. It's the kind of move that could shift the balance of economic power in North America, a move that could redefine Canada's role not as a secondary player in the global market, but as a serious leader in energy, mining, and green technology. But not everyone is comfortable with this transformation. Critics argue that these billion-dollar projects come with major risks, environmental, financial, and political. They question whether the government can manage such large-scale changes without transparency. And they wonder whether these leaks are a strategic distraction or a glimpse of a plan already in motion. Still, there's something about the scale and timing that feels deliberate, as if the leaks themselves were meant to prepare the public for what's coming next. Because behind every nation-building announcement lies another layer: control. Whoever controls these projects will control Canada's economic direction for the next 30 years. And that's exactly why Carney's voice matters now more than ever. He's not warning about chaos, he's warning about complacency. He's not chasing headlines, he's trying to make sure Canada doesn't miss its moment. Carney has spent his career understanding how nations rise and fall. He's seen what happens when countries hesitate in moments of global change. And he knows that in today's fractured world, opportunity doesn't wait. If the leaks are true, Canada is finally waking up to its own potential, not as a junior partner to anyone, but as an independent, confident nation ready to shape its own destiny. And that's exactly the kind of boldness Carney has been calling for. But the deeper you look into these projects, the more mysterious it becomes. The details don't just describe infrastructure, they describe strategy. Why are so many of these projects tied to regions rich in critical minerals? Why is there so much emphasis on LNG, clean energy, and Arctic power? Why is so much coordination happening in silence? Some say these are defensive moves, a shield against the uncertainty of U.S. trade policy. Others believe it's part of a broader pivot, an effort to give Canada true independence in a world where alliances are constantly shifting. Either way, something massive is underway. One confidential report describes these projects as foundations of resilience. Another calls them the economic architecture of a new Canada. The language sounds grand, but the message is clear: the country is building something permanent, something that could outlast political cycles and leadership changes. And yet, with all this ambition, the secrecy continues. No public press conferences. No grand announcements. Just leaks, calculated, timed, and strategic. It's as if Canada's future is being written behind closed doors, while the world looks elsewhere. But there's one line in those reports that stands out more than any other. A line that almost feels like a message from Carney himself. When the world turns uncertain, the nations that build will lead. Maybe that's the real story behind these leaks, not scandal, not corruption, but strategy. A plan to rebuild Canada's economic backbone before the next wave of global disruption hits. A plan that could define the next generation of Canadian power. If that's true, then these billion-dollar projects aren't just about energy or infrastructure. They're about sovereignty. They're about confidence. They're about finally realizing what Canada can become when it stops waiting for permission and starts leading on its own terms. And that's why this story is so explosive. Because if these projects move forward, if even half of what's been leaked is accurate, then Canada is about to enter a new era. An era where leadership will matter more than ever. An era where visionaries like Mark Carney will shape the debate about what kind of nation we want to be. For now, the leaks are just whispers, documents without names, plans without confirmation. But whispers have power. They signal that something big is shifting under the surface. Something that could change everything about how Canada works, trades, and grows. Maybe that's why this story feels less like a leak, and more like a warning. Because when billion-dollar plans start emerging from the shadows, it's not chaos that follows, it's transformation. And in the middle of it all, one truth remains. Canada is standing on the edge of its next great chapter. Whether it rises or falls will depend on how it handles what comes next. The clock has started. And the world is watching.